Khalipe I would describe as the strongest, most versatile and safest carry in the game. She shields better than any other character, and also her AoE damage is absolutely ridiculous. She's a very skill-heavy character that really incentivizes you knowing your deck and having teammates that complement her. Khalipe can be played as a main DPS, but she can also be played as a sub-DPS. And in this video, I plan to go over both. Hello everybody, welcome to the channel, my name is Hako. In this video, I'm gonna teach you everything you need to know about Khalipe. I would consider Khalipe to be my main. She's kind of the character I was hoping to get from the beginning. Didn't get her until quite a few days in. Now that I have her, I'm never letting her down, or I'm never putting her down. She is fucking amazing to play. So, every character has their bread and butter. What is the bread and butter? What are the basic combos, rotation and thought process with Khalipe? Well, it all revolves around the card called Vulture Ejection. This is a free cost card. It deals a bunch of defense-based damage to the enemies, it gives some shield, and it also gives you Silver Veil. Silver Veil is a special resource that only Khalipe have, and you can see the stacks of it next to her portrait. Now, this one's cost free AP, although you're never ever meant to play this one for free AP. Instead, it is played for free because it is a heaven card. Hako, what is a heaven card? A heaven card is a card that gets played automatically whenever you play another card that costs 2 or more. So, if we were to always have to pay free AP for this, it would be kinda bad. Now that we get it for free when we play other expensive cards, it's absolutely goated. And what the Silver Veil does is that once you reach 3 stacks of it, Khalipe will do an additional attack for 400% of her defense-based damage to all enemies, and also reset the Silver Veil stacks. Now, the way I like to do this is whenever we discuss any of the unique cards that have epiphanies, let's also talk about the epiphanies. Vulture Ejections has some really good ones, and it also has some, less good ones. What I personally like to do on Khalipe is kind of forsake defense for offense. Most epiphanies of her cards will allow you to get rid of the shield part and just go more heavy in on the damage part. Which can be a very potent way to build your deck if you have other healers that can still keep you alive even if you forsake Khalipe's shield. And out of all of these epiphanies, the one in the middle and especially the one to the furthest left are my favorite. The one to the furthest left adds on a bunch more extra damage, although, like I said, it gets rid of the shield. The one in the middle ups the shield and it ups the damage. The other ones, they are okay, and I would say the absolute worst one is the one that just takes away the damage and just gives you a big shield instead. Now, if you're using Khalipe as your only defensive unit, there might be some use to this, although I would not recommend it. So I would say that the Vulture Ejection is by far her most iconic and important card, and there are some of her other cards that correlates with it. One such card is Greatsword Aquila. This deals defense-based damage to all enemies, and if a Vulture Ejection is in hand, the cost goes from 1 to a 2 cost, and it also gains 100% extra damage. And one thing that is nice about this going up to a 2 cost is that then it can activate the Heaven card, which the Vulture Ejection is. And this one has some interesting epiphanies. The one to the furthest right, I'm kind of a fan of. It has a retrieve free on it, which means that 3 times when it's supposed to go in the discard deck, it will automatically pop into your hand. Now, this one is quite neat. It's not my favorite. Let's keep going. The one further to the left of that makes it into always be a 2 cost, and also makes it so every time you retain this card, the damage of the next used Vulture Reaction gets increased by 60%. And it also adds retain to the card itself. And this can be good if you're looking to just do one perfect round and you need to keep your Aquila on the hand. It's not a bad one at all. However, my favorite one is the one in the middle. It increases the damage substantially, makes it an AP2, and also if a Vulture Ejection is in your hand when you're playing this, you will gain 1 Silver Veil. And remember, Silver Veil is the thing that if we stack it 3 times, we will get an extra really strong AoE attack. The one to the left of that gives you 40% damage every time you use this ability. So this is good if you can manually fish it back into your hand after you used it. So the next time you use it, it will be 300%, then 340, then 380, etc. And the one to the furthest left is just an increase of everything. More base damage, and also more damage if you cast it while you have a Vulture Ejection on the hand. Now, I will say, all of these are good. To me, the standout ones are the one to the furthest left, and the one in the middle. And if the choice is between those two, I'd rather pick the one in the middle that gives Silver Veil. After that, we have Overpower. This is a big shield, and also 110 acid damage to all enemies. Now, base kit, this one is all right. With Epiphanies, it actually becomes great. 1 increases action count to all enemies. 1 for each card in hand, you gain 40% more shield. The one in the middle, more shield base kit, but also instead you deal 2 tenacity damage to all enemies. Now 2 is substantially more than 1. One could say it's double as much. And even though this card is a little bit on the costly side, if you manage to break an enemy or break 2 enemies, the card becomes free. To the left of that, we have an interesting one. If, after having cast this card, enemies are ravaged, so like you've broken the tenacity bar, you will apply 2 vulnerable to them. If they're not ravaged, apply 2 weaken. And then for each ravaged enemy, 1 damage reduction. Now, my favorite ones of these ones is the one in the middle and the one to the left of that. So the one that applies 2 vulnerable or the one that instead applies 2 tenacity damage. And now, if you're playing Khalipe as kind of a sub-DPS to, say, melee-in, the one in the middle is very good to help melee-in break the enemies, or to apply vulnerable on enemies if they're already ravaged. The other ones are more tanky cards, and like I said, the way I like to play Khalipe is just have it do as much damage as possible, so the one in the middle or the one to the left of that is what you kind of want to be aiming for. After that, we have Rally. It's a shield, and it also allows you to draw the highest cost card in your deck. So if you only have 1 card that costs 3, which is what Vulture Ejection does, you will automatically draw Vulture Ejection if it is available to be drawn. If you have other free cost cards, well, then you will pick one of those at random. And this makes Rally kind of important to like understand, so like you might not want to be filling up a lot of other free cost cards because we want to be using Rally in order to like force Vulture Ejection back into our hand. Now there are some epiphanies that will help us with this. The one to the furthest right allows you to pick 1 card that costs 2 or more from your draw pile to draw. So if you have a lot of free cost, well, we can just pick the Vulture Ejection. I don't love this one. The one to the left of that, you gain 71% shield equal to that card's cost. So if it costs a free cost, well, you gain 71 times free. And this also makes it so you get 1 silver veil out of Rally. And all epiphanies will allow you to get 1 silver veil, except the one to the furthest right. That's why I don't like it. Now, the one in the middle is my favorite. It turns the Rally into a 2-cost card, but it also makes it into a heaven card. Once again, what does heaven cards do? Well, they activate when we play another card that costs 2 or more. So I would say that this is probably my favorite. My second favorite comes to the left of that one. This one, instead of drawing the highest cost card, you will draw 1 heaven card from the deck. Now, this can be a problem if you have a lot of heavens cards, but they're not easy to come by. So if I have the option to pick either one in the middle or the one to the left of it, I go for these 2. And the one to the furthest left doesn't change the function of it, it just adds on a silver veil to it. Now the second one from the right, it changes so you don't draw the most expensive card, you just draw the next card in the draw pile, which, yeah, I'm not a big fan of. So what you want to be hoping for is either the middle or the 2 left of the middle. Now for our final card, we have Absolute Protection. This card costs X, which means that it eats up as much AP as you have left when you play this card. It's also a final card, which means that your turn will be over when you play it. And it makes it so, for every AP that you give this card, it will give you 140% shield. And it will also add retain to all of your cards in your hand. And this is a good like oh shit card if a really hard hitting attack is coming and you need to like stall until the next turn before you can kill the monster. Well, just turn all your AP into shield and absorb the attack and hopefully survive. Now, if you're going a more like just full out offense Khalipe, this is one of the cards that I sometimes end up removing. And for a lot of characters, you don't want the basic cards left in the deck when you turn into the save data, and that is the same with Khalipe. You're kinda hoping to get rid of Tyr's Wow, Lashing, Upward Slash. And if you're going full offense Khalipe, you can also get rid of Absolute Protection. As for Khalipe's ultimate, it is a really strong one. It's called Charisma of Resolve. It does 300% defense-based damage to all enemies. And it will create 1 Vulture Ejection. So if you play that at the start of a combat, well, you will have 2 Vulture Ejections in the deck, or more if you manage to replicate your original one. And since Vulture Ejection is kinda Khalipe's bread and butter, that is very good. And a very standard Khalipe combo is, if you have Epiphany on Rally and Greatsword Aquila, so they both give you Silver Veil, is 1, you use Rally to pull up a Vulture Ejection from your draw pile. If you have Greatsword Aquila in your hand, the Greatsword Aquila will turn into a 2-cost. You will have gotten 1 Silver Veil from using Rally, then you will get another one from using Greatsword Aquila. Greatsword Aquila, now being a 2 AP cost card, will trigger Vulture Ejection. You will get an additional Silver Veil from Greatsword Aquila, and then an additional one from Vulture Ejection when that plays. And now what you kinda wanna make sure of with Khalipe is that the enemies are vulnerable before you attack them. Almost all of our attacks are one big hit, and if we can make that hit, either crit or benefit of vulnerable, that makes your damage so much more potent. Of course, also make sure that if you have any buff cards for Khalipe, make sure to apply them before she does her combos. Now let's look over some save datas that I have from my Khalipe. My highest TB one is this one. Now, since I usually run my Khalipe with my Orlea, Unexploded Plasma Bomber is not a bad thing to have. It's not one of her best ones, but it's doable. As for the armor, we want anything that has a high defense on it. And one of her better accessories is Flower of Dead Souls. From the second attack card each turn onward, plus 15% damage. Now, Khalipe usually does several attacks in her turn, so that synergizes very well with her. This is a pretty good deck, since I managed to replicate Vulture Ejection that had been epiphanied. The bad thing about it, though, is that I did manage to pick up 2 iron walls, and quite frankly, I shouldn't have. Overall, it's not a bad save, but it could be better. Let's look at some other ones. This deck is a little bit more slimmed. For the weapon, Blood Giant Claw, on Ravage, plus 100% fixed damage to the target. This is extremely good on Khalipe, since she is good at ravaging the enemies. For extra cards, I picked up Sacred Strike. Now, Khalipe is good at ravaging, but unless you get really lucky with epiphanies, she might need some help with some neutral cards to consistently be able to ravage the enemy. This one is a little bit so-and-so. I managed to get lucky on the gear, Intellect of Chaos is pretty nice, and so is Madman's Masterpiece. I also managed to replicate 2 Greatsword Aquila, and if you get the chance to replicate one of the cards, Vulture Ejection or Greatsword Aquila are one of the better ones. Rally is also a good contender because it helps you get Vulture Ejection back into your hand. What I didn't like about this deck is that I had removed Tears Vow and Lashing, but they ended up back in the deck when it got saved. After that, we have one of the better decks. In this one, I managed to get Formika's Broken Spear, plus 5% damage per enemy. This is extremely good for Khalipe because she is kinda the AoE queen. The more enemies, the better, and this scales with that. And for when we're taking care of all of the small fries, we have Eye of the Punisher, which I would say is one of the better accessories, kinda for all characters. If the enemy is alone, increase damage by 30%. Now in this deck, I managed to pick up Pulverize. Pulverize is extremely good. And I also managed to get a Divine Epiphany that makes it so it has 100% extra tenacity damage. I also had a Divine Epiphany Rallied that reduces the card to a 0 cost. Now, the bad thing with this deck is that once again, Lashing and Upward Slash found their way back to it. But overall, this is one of my better saves if you just look at the deck. Now, this save is also a little bit spicy. I managed to get Radiant Orb, plus 20% damage to targets with shield. This is also a very good one. Dance of the Night Butterflies synergizes well with Khalipe. Moon of Destruction it's not bad, but it's not a game changer. For this one, I managed to pick up some Pulverize. If you have the chance to pick up some Pulverize, they're never a bad option on Khalipe. Another good card that I like to pick up on her is Energy Barrier. Now, once again, Tears Vow and Upward Slash managed to find their way back into the deck. For the next one, this deck is a little bit all over the place. Ritual Dagger is very good. Also, Forbidden Bible on extended combat is not a bad Bible at all. This is a lot of damage. What's good with this save is that I managed to replicate the Vulture Ejection and that those actually stayed. I got quite lucky with the monster cards. I managed to get Wolf's Bane and Winged Humanoid Beast, which are not bad cards. I also managed to get 1 Iron Wall. Now, I would say maybe try to stay clear of those. I've been trying to do it lately. This one is better than most because it has a Divine Epiphany that gave it morale and resolve. For the next one, this weapon is very interesting. Twin Swords of Great and Lesser Evil, plus 20% damage against ravaged targets. This is obviously very good. Overall, the deck itself, not great. Tears Vow, once again, found its way back into the deck after I removed it. Hand-to-hand combat is not a bad one, especially not if you get the Epiphany that adds in 2 vulnerable to it. Overwhelm is a card that I haven't quite made up my mind around if I like or if I hate. If it's a short combat and you never get to pull a lot of overloads, it can be nice, but quite often I almost regret taking it because I don't like pulling the overload cards. Now for the next one, the TB on this is quite low, but I think that this is one of my stronger Khalipe decks. We managed to get Sneering Dagger, which is not a bad weapon, not a best in slot, but it's not bad. Assault Boots help with defense, and also 1 more Eye of the Punisher. Now I got rid of most of the cards I didn't like. Upward Slash found its way back, but it's not the end of the world. We got some Energy Barrier, we got the Pulverize, and we also got a Belligerence. If there are no attack cards in hand, draw 2. 0 cost. This is a very good card if you can come by it. Alright, 2 more. For this one I managed to get Executioner's Edge, which is not a bad weapon. The other gear could be better. The deck is pretty nice and slimmed down, and I managed to get 2 Vulture Ejections. Sadly, they did not get any of the Epiphanies, but I did manage to get 2 Rallies, both Epiphanied up. Had the Epiphanies occurred on the Vulture Ejections and Greatsword Aquila, this would have been one of my better decks. And finally, we have this save data. The weapon here is very good. The Destruction of Erisishton. I have no idea how to pronounce that. When using an attack card, 5% chance to +1 hit. Like I said, most of Khalipe's thing is 1 big hit, so making them hit 1 more time effectively doubles the damage. Now it's only a 5% chance, so this is, 1 attack in 20, but when it happens, it is fun. Pulsating Egg is definitely not a bad one, plus 10% attack and plus 10% HP. Deck is kinda slimmed down, but sadly no Epiphany on Vulture Ejection or Greatsword Aquila. So basically this is how you want to be constructing your Khalipe decks. You're looking to either duplicate Vulture Ejection, Greatsword Aquila, or Rallies. Preferably if they've also had Epiphanies. Get rid of the basic cards and aim to get good equipment. There are a vast array of weapons, a vast array of accessories, and a vast array of armors that works really good on Khalipe. For neutral cards, some of the best ones is Energy Barrier, Pulverize, and Belligerence. There's also a free cost card that I've found a couple of times but I don't think I made it out with, which is called, I think it is Tackle. It has a rugby player on it and it is very good, deals a lot of defense damage. Now, as for Khalipe's best partners, her absolutely best in slot intended partner is Zeta. This is one of the standard banner 5-star partners, and it is very specific to just Khalipe alone. It increases the defense-based damage of assigned combatants' instinct cards by 15%, and plus 25% of the assigned combatants' heaven card defense-based damage and shield. As of right now in the game, Khalipe is the only one that really wants Zeta. Hako, I don't have her, most people don't. What can I use instead? If you don't have her, Wilhelmina is kinda the intended partner to go with. And it's basically Zeta Light. Now, if you don't have her either, you can also opt in for Rachel. But since all of the other Vanguard cards mostly work with counterattack, which is something that Khalipe innately doesn't have, it is recommended to stay clear of those if you can. Now, you might be wondering how I got Zeta. Well, I purchased her from the shop. So, the duplicate resource you get whenever you pull a duplicate? Well, I didn't use up mine and instead I traded them in for a partner of my choosing. Now, important to note is that you can also do this from the Zeronium shop, so if you're planning to actually use your Khalipe, go ahead and grab one Wilhelmina. Now, let's talk some potential. The first big potential makes it so Upward Slash becomes an AoE. This is one of her basic cards and it doesn't cost a lot to upgrade, so maybe just take it, it helps you out during the early stages of a run, for example. The next big one increases damage of lashing and Upward Slash. Once again, those are kind of cards we're looking to get rid of, so as you can see, I have not bothered upgrading this. But for the last one, this one gets interesting. So, it adds on 10% damage to Vulture Ejection, and if Khalipe's attack is greater than 700, an additional 20% Vulture Ejection damage is added on. And if Khalipe's defense is greater than 300, an additional 20% to Vulture Ejection shield. So the big one to get is over 700 attack. Now, my Khalipe is kinda decently built, I think. It's not great, but it is passable. Sadly, I'm still around 100 attack off the threshold, which I'm hoping to improve with better gear. And speaking of gear, her best 4-piece is a 4-set Line of Justice. It makes it so 2 cost cards or more gets 20% extra crit chance, which is huge for Khalipe. All of her attack cards costs 2 or more. For GP's number 4, you want either crit chance or crit damage. Now, I haven't gotten a good legendary rarity of this yet that has crit chance, so I had to settle for crit damage, even though her crit chance is kinda low. For the 5th gear piece, you can either go instinct damage or you can go attack percentage. Now, I went attack percentage in hopes to reach the threshold, which I'm still a bit off. Since the threshold is set kinda high, mostly you just want attack on number 5. For number 6, Khalipe is a defense scaling agent, so you want defense percentage. Now if you get a really good piece that has ego recovery on it, it's not bad since her ego skill is very good, but mostly you want defense percentage. Now when it comes to her ego, the first one is kinda a joke. The second one is pretty good, the fourth one is not bad, and the sixth one is amazing. Now, she doesn't need any to feel strong and be able to play. I wreck all content in the game with her just as she is right now. As for Khalipe's teams, she can be extremely flexible. She can be the star of the show, like my Team 5, or you can slot her in as a sub-DPS, like in my Team 2. As a sub-DPS, what Khalipe excels at is doing tenacity damage. Something that pairs extremely well with a main carry like Mei Lin, since cards like Vulture Ejection will play for free, and also some of our other cards can be made into heaven cards to also play for free. If we use more expensive cards from another character, we can make her a very AP positive character. And basically she can take the place of any of the shielders and most often do one better job of it. So if you're running Maribel, Magna as your shielder, taking them out and slapping in Khalipe will yield you better results. Now, my favorite Khalipe team consists of main carry Khalipe, Magna, and then Orlea. Vanguards are fun in that way, in that they kinda synergize very well with each other. Magna has a bunch of cards that will benefit her whenever she gets shield applied from another card, and most thing that Khalipe does, even if it's nuking the entire enemy team, will reward shield, so they synergize very well together. And in this scenario, having the second Vanguard on a partner like Rachel can yield some very interesting results. Now, another interesting combo that I feel like I just need to give a shout out to is having a full Vanguard team consisting of Maribel as the final one. Now, in just normal standard runs, I've sometimes achieved shields up to 1500 and sometimes more. Maribel specifically has some cards that will deal damage equal to how much shield that you have. Shelter Strike, for example, when you have around 2000 shield, gets kinda crazy. Obviously, it's not a top tier team because any health that you do end up losing, well, you have a hard time getting back outside of campsites. Khalipe also pairs well with other characters that can help her get her most important cards back into the hand. So running a Cassius, for example, that can just pick Vulture Ejection back up into your hand, very good. Same goes for Nia, and Veronica can also be an excellent teammate for Khalipe. Now that was a lot of information, let's condense the actual combat of it. It's all about her Vulture Ejection and her stacking her Silver Veil. Making sure that the enemies are vulnerable before we unleash a full combo, and hopefully the enemies are vulnerable when we get a full stack of Silver Veil, because that attack is very hard hitting and it hits so much more if the enemies are actually vulnerable. Especially as a main carry, you might consider Khalipe to be kinda AP hungry, something that you then understand that it's alleviated by actually breaking the enemies. Every enemy you break, you get 1 AP back from, and Khalipe has a lot of AoE tenacity damage. We want a lot of crit rate and crit damage on Khalipe, because if her hard attacks crit, well, they do that much more damage. My crit chance is kinda laughably low, even though the 4-piece adds on 20%. I would rather be around a 50% on the crit chance and maybe 150% on the critical damage. Khalipe excels at AoE damage, so any stage where there's a bunch of small minions. She has nothing really that sets her apart in single target combat, so it's good if we pair up with something that has a little bit more firepower against one single enemy. Like Mei Lin, for example. The follow-up attack we do when we have free Silver Veil is really hard hitting, so we want as many cards that can give us Silver Veil as possible. Get rid of her basic attack cards as not to flood her hand, and make sure that any card that you have the ability to pick up, that it actually benefits Khalipe, and don't just pick up it for the sake of it. Everybody, that is all I can teach you about Khalipe without this video taking several hours. If you feel like I missed anything, slap it down in the comments, and also if you have any additional questions regarding Khalipe, slap it down in the comments. What is so great with having an amazing community is that if I forget to mention something, someone else will point out that I forgot to mention it, and the information can be complete, so always check the comments for any additional notes. And lastly, if you're into more Chaos Zero Nightmare content, check out my other videos on the channel. I am an official creator for the game, so I do try to do as many videos as I can, going over the small mechanics, but also the advanced mechanics. And right now, Chaos Zero Nightmare and Zenless Zone Zero are kind of the two main games I am covering on the channel. So if you're interested in either of those two, maybe hit that subscribe and the bell notification button. Alright everybody, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, have a big hug, and until next time, Hako out.
Get drunk, live for sunrise in the moonlight. Just don't wake me up, we do what we like. Let's funk after midnight, sparking twilight. We just turn it up, wait for new sunrise.